That's it. The rocket is primed. You have to launch now, before the dust storm destroys the rocket and everything we've worked for.
Deliver Us the Moon takes place in a future that feels terrifyingly close to our own, as the Earth is doomed to become a floating interstellar coffin for the human race. It's a tale told by so many others. Climate change, an energy crisis, and steady loss of resources are turning the planet into a barely hospitable dust bowl, with entire continents succumbing to sandstorms and other life-threatening hazards. In an effort to extend the clock and possibly reverse the damage, the World Space Agency built a colony on the Moon to harvest helium-3, a new energy source that gets transported to Earth, Energon style, as a beam of pure blue-white light. All goes nicely until the colony suddenly goes dark, creating a blackout that once again brings the planet to the brink. In the years following, the WSA sends a lone astronaut in a desperate attempt to reactivate the colony and find out why it was abandoned. Deliver Us the Moon is the latest in a subgenre I like to call space custodial simulators, video games that break from the expectations of modern science fiction. Instead of running through hallways blasting aliens left and right, you're instead expected to perform civilian duties like conducting maintenance work and fixing broken machines. Swapping epic alien encounters for a more contemplative experience allows for storytelling to take center stage. Games like these also open new avenues for interaction and puzzle gameplay that might not be as exciting as pulling the trigger on a high-powered plasma rifle, but rather lends itself to a different kind of atmosphere. Such is the case in your quest to restore helium-3 production, a process that begins with you trying to work through a launch sequence before a sandstorm destroys the rocket meant to take you to the Moon.
Hydrogen burn-off system activated. Rocket boosters ready for ignition. Standing by for countdown. Rocket boosters ignition start. Engines ready in 5, 4, 3, 2, start 1. We have liftoff!
Your primary mission involves following in the footsteps of the colonists and a WSA astronaut sent to investigate the blackout years earlier. Unexpected damage has rendered areas of the space elevator leading to the lunar colony inoperable, and you're expected to float through various detours to get things up and running again in order to hit the next sequence of story beats. The opening areas of the game make for thrilling and tense situations because you're expected to navigate through zero-gravity areas that lack oxygen, a clock counting down the amount of breathable air in your suit. Zero-gravity movement is a disorienting experience because the station around you isn't necessarily designed to help you show which way is up. These sequences, however, are typically short jaunts that break up the more monotonous on-foot sections. An unshakable feeling of repetition sets in by the time the player has reached the Moon because the sprawling lunar station holds a lot of the same puzzle experiences. Bringing the helium-3 machines back online involves running through a familiar loop of having a computer tell you where to activate something, find a way to bypass an obstacle, activate the objective, and then run back to the next area to find out the second, the third, and fourth step in this overall process. The introduction of a robot drone partner makes for a nice shakeup as you'll need it to access hard-to-reach areas and switches, but even that doesn't take long before it starts getting a little too familiar. All of the player's actions are in service to leading them to crude, holographic recordings of the colony's final moments, exposing a plot that had serious ramifications on their future as well as Earth's. These recordings are interspersed with updates from Sarah, who was sent to find out why the colony stopped producing. The result is a story of human drama motivated by fear and the search for an alternative, no matter how misguided it may be. These recordings quickly became my favorite aspect of the game. Played a lot of non-AAA games that tried to get the best performances out of their actors and actresses, but Deliver Us the Moon features quality voice work that could give even the most expensive AAA game a run for its money.
thick, Rosa. Even if we ever manage to provide Earth with all the power it needs, what do we truly gain? More time to see oceans and deserts taking our homes. William, I've done my part. Let's just go. I'm done with this mess.
You heard the man. Let's go. Outward begins.
Enamored as I was with the game's presentation and atmosphere, I couldn't ignore some of its more glaring faults. As mentioned earlier, a lot of the work you're asked to do feels repetitive. Plug in a battery here, align a dish there, and reboot a few computers. The puzzles aren't too taxing, but I was annoyed with those that involved walking through an area to scout out a mission-critical object as if I were playing a 3D photo hunt game. My very first trip to zero gravity ended in tragedy simply because I didn't know what to do or what to look for. It was then that I discovered death to be a real inconvenience to me. Dying from asphyxiation, electrocution, or drone attack wouldn't be too bad if it didn't take so long to reload the previous checkpoint. Death, and more specifically the long load times, also happen by failing to respond to QuickTime events that appear wildly and without warning. QuickTime events are old hat these days, and nobody likes them anymore. Thankfully, there are only 2 instances, but why even bother at that point? As frustrated as I was with parts of the game's design, especially a late game stealth sequence that feels totally random, I did like the experience overall, even when the gameplay trips over its own feet. Deliver Us the Moon is a short adventure, but a memorable one. I like how the story concludes in a manner that leaves loose threads, leaving you to speculate how things might have turned out for everything and everyone outside the player character's sphere of influence. The puzzles are modest and easy, and for as much backtracking you end up doing, the journey never felt arduous to me. And right when I felt like things were getting boring, I was treated to strategically placed views of a hauntingly beautiful lunar surface and a dying, lonely Earth floating off in the distance. Dark Station gives Deliver Us the Moon for the PlayStation 4 4 stars.